Hi ducklings, welcome to another resource for Self-Love September. In the month of September on my channel, I basically just enjoy reflecting on self-love, thinking about where I am with it, how self-loving have I been, how much more self-loving could I encourage myself to be, and I engage in my reflections around this subject in so many different ways, through ritual, through journaling, through making video resources like this where I think about what I want to say about self-love, what rings true for me and how I can share that with you. And one of the key ways that I do any reflection in my life, to be honest, any reflection at all, is through tarot. Tarot is a really important tool for me. I've been using cards since I was 12 or 13. I can't remember when I first got my hands on a deck, courtesy of one of my mother's friends, who I will love and value forever for putting the Marseille Tarot in my hot little hands all those years ago. But yeah, from that point on to now in my mid-30s, I have been really valuing tarot, playing with it, doing readings with it personally and later on professionally. And tarot is now a major part of pretty much every day of my life. You know, every working day I do at least one reading. And then, you know, I'm also using it in my personal life too, and having conversations with people about it. I have tarot students, so it's a big thing. It's a big part of my life, and it's definitely hugely improved my life. There's so many times I've sat down with the cards to reflect on self-love and do readings about self-love for myself. And definitely, I think some of the cards that have challenged me the most in tarot, the ones that I didn't see myself in, the ones that annoyed me, upset me, made me feel shadowy, those are the cards that have given me some of the biggest self-love lessons for sure. I want to talk today about, just spontaneously basically, about some cards and the messages and lessons that they've given to me in relation to self-love. I have no plan. I have here my Morgan Greer Tarot and my Aquarian Tarot. Both of them are mini versions, so they're kind of pocket versions, which is so useful for me because I love both of these decks. And I love sort of, you know, having one on me in my bag. I've always loved having a tarot deck on me in my bag. So basically I've selected these two decks so that you can just have a variation in the imagery that you're seeing. And I'm going to go through, basically I'm just going to flip through my deck and I'm going to think about what I want to say about various cards that come up in relation to my self-love journey. What have I learned from these cards? How have they challenged me? How have they given me a different perspective on how I can love myself and value myself and be an ally to myself more? So no idea which cards are going to come up right now, but I will do by the time I finish the video, of course, and therefore you can rely on me having some timestamps. I'm definitely going to be having some timestamps so that you can navigate through and see what my thoughts are for the various cards that came up in this video that I felt like I wanted to speak on. Three of Cups is the first card that I feel called to talk about, moved to say a few words on. I think there's some interesting layers to this card for me when it comes to the self-love journey. First of all, Three of Cups to me is an image of hedonistic, thrill-seeking, play, interaction with people that is not really to do with work. You know, it's to do with fun, it's to do with making hay while the sun shines, it's to do with being together, connecting, having a good time, you know, raising a glass. So there's very much this celebratory vibe and, as I said, this real hedonism. Now, I'm definitely a hedonist. I am guilty as charged. You could accuse me of hedonism and you would definitely not be wrong. I am here for a good time, not a long time. And it's one of my priorities in life, basically, to seek fun, you know, to have really beautiful times, make memories. I love dancing. I love going out. I love interacting on that very sort of external, social, extroverted level in that kind of way. So Three of Cups is obviously a really good symbol of that. It's a good symbol of girls getting together and having it large, you know, getting Larry, darling. So I think one of the things that has helped me a lot with the Three of Cups reflections that I've had over time is that too much hedonism, too much focus on smashing it and having a good time and whatnot can definitely be unself-loving. You know, there can be something about that that becomes unself-loving. I feel like there's a focus missing as I'm looking at these cards, and it's been worrying me. I feel like you actually can't really see the fine line work of the cards, and I can't figure out why, since this is a very good camera, but never mind, I'll carry on. So yeah, basically I think it's about more balance, you know. I think that rejoicing and really enjoying myself is a really important part of life for me, but there's definitely also that balance that needs to be struck. I need to make sure I give myself good sleep, good food. I need to make sure that I go inward and I'm introspective, and I know that being in solitude is okay, and I enjoy being on my own, you know, enjoying my own company. So that's something I've tried to navigate on my self-love journey quite a bit, is just really making sure that I allow myself to be on my own, and also to make sure I don't engage too much in hedonistic behavior, so much so that my body suffers, my work suffers, you know, the other ambitions that I have in life suffer. The other thing that I really like about Three of Cups is that it taps into my shadows about friendship. It taps into the need that I have to make sure that, you know, friendships are equal and beautiful, and there's reciprocity there, and the boundaries, you know, are there where they need to be. In the past, when I was younger, I had a really difficult experience with two women in my life who I would say were absolutely the main women in my life. And, you know, we really spent so much of our time together. I thought that we really valued each other. We were thoughtful towards each other. We were loving towards each other. And I thought they were going to be my friends forever. And actually, things didn't turn out that way. Things did not actually materialise that way in the end. And Three of Cups gave me kind of a shadowy feeling for quite some time, grappling with what happened there and how I could have been more self-loving in the situation, and how I could have ensured that I took up for myself in the situation. And I think also, you know, when I looked at Three of Cups, I tapped into self-blame quite a bit. I tapped into worth issues quite a bit, thinking about my connection with these two women and how that had gone. So for me, there's also a really sort of personal story that I think Three of Cups really connects me with. Three of Cups represents the value of deep bonds that you have. And to me, when I look at Three of Cups, I'm not always thinking about deep bonds with human beings. I'm thinking about those divine ties that can bind in your life, you know, the strong bonds that you may have with goddesses. And you could even see Three of Cups as being representative of the goddess triad, the triple goddess concept, if you wanted to. So Three of Cups is certainly about knowing when to reach out. It's about recognizing that you need help. You need to express fully how you feel to a space holding agent or entity in your life. It's not always going to be a good friend or family member. It could be, you know, a divine presence, a disembodied intelligence that you go to and you have that communion with. I think Three of Cups can be about like raising a glass in communion and really sort of solidifying the nature and intention of your connection with goddess or with divine entity, and also with seeing the different facets of yourself. You could definitely see Three of Cups as being representative of three different aspects of your personality, three different key strengths that you have or ways of looking at things that you have. So it could be about coming together in all of the different paradoxes of yourself and really sort of drinking to that harmony that you want to find with the different aspects of yourself, the embracing that you want to be doing of these different aspects of yourself. I always used to read Eight of Swords when I was younger as this person who was frustrated, trapped, you know, couldn't get out of their situation, and the situation is oppressive, the situation is not pleasant. You've got this person blindfolded and with ropes wrapped around them, surrounded by swords, you know, and a long way from the domestic comforts that can often be seen in the background of the card. But then I came to recognise that obviously there's a chrysalis vibe with this card as well, and there's sort of a Houdini vibe with Eight of Swords. There's perhaps a sense that this figure came out here to do this really important, powerful but uncomfortable and unpleasant work, and they actually have somehow placed themselves in the situation as a supreme challenge and as a really important step in their personal development. So whenever I'm feeling that I've got some uncomfortable work that needs to be done, I'm stuck or trapped in this uncomfortable situation where I need to take up for myself, or I need to realise something really painful, or I'm kind of just, you know, in the midst of cracking out of a chrysalis and it just feels uncomfortable, like I don't have enough space, I don't have enough room. I try to take a self-loving angle on it, and for me that's got a lot to do with recognising the value, the gold, the medicine in this unpleasant experience that I'm having. It's about looking at the unpleasant experience and saying to myself, I'm going to get so much out of this. I'm going to be righteously improved, and I'm going to be carved so much more intricately and in so much more of a healthy way once this is done, once I get to the other side of this really tough work. One thing that I try to think about whenever I'm feeling confined, whenever I'm feeling like, you know, I'm captive in some way, I'm being held hostage by this difficult set of circumstances, is I try to think about how much that's going to have a positive effect on me down the road. And as I've gotten older, this self-loving mentality has become easier to click in with for myself, because I know that I have recognized and deeply felt the fruits of my own labor when it comes to you know, difficult processes I've been through that then have given way to incredible riches. I know from the benefit of my experiences in life that some of the things that I've gone through have really taken me out the other side as this incredibly crafted version of me, where I have access to so much more awareness, I have access to so much more wisdom and insight or strength. And so when I'm in that 8 of Swords position, when I'm feeling bound, when I'm feeling kind of imprisoned, I try to think, oh my goddess, you know what, on the other side of this, imagine what I could accomplish, imagine what I will have recognized, imagine all of those revelations that are coming down the pipeline. One more thought actually about 8 of Swords. I was going to come away from it, but then I wanted to say as well that I think 8 of Swords is about sitting with discomfort, knowing that it's going to give way to medicine, but knowing that the moment for that is not now. You know, there is something uncomfortable happening here. There is certainly a mental state that is happening, and a physical reality that you can see in these cards that is not the most pleasant. And we're not supposed to feel like really super positive vibes about what is happening in this moment now. And I think that for me, self-love, the self-loving mentality, is about recognizing there is something medicinal in this. There is a kernel of alchemy in this, but at the same time, being able to sit with what is happening without running away from it, being able to hold myself there in that moment of unfolding and feeling and experiencing, knowing that I have the strength to do that. That for me is also a very self-loving angle on this kind of energy that this card is giving to me. Nothing stays the same forever. You know, there is a forthcoming energy of freedom, liberation, release. We can look forward to that at some time, whilst also recognizing that is not what's happening now. And I fully give myself to this moment of bondage. I give myself to what is happening in this moment. Queen of Cups in the Morgan Greer Tarot is one of my favorite interpretations of this card, one of the most beautiful visual interpretations for me. I just love what she's wearing. I love the big shell in the background. She looks really purposeful. That crown is incredible. So it's nice to be able to have a few words on this card and what it means to me. Queen of Cups, you know, there's so much to this card, as there is with every card, but what I wanted to think about as I was flicking through the deck, what I wanted to talk about that came up when I saw Queen of Cups, was that I really am, you know, currently healing from a very specific type of relationship where I gave so much and I opened myself so completely, and the pain that I experienced, you know, in this connection really led me to thinking about overgiving, codependency, the nature of addiction in relationships, the nature of that sort of experience one has where they want to be needed and they want to be that person who is sort of inextricably bound to this individual who might give them the words that would imply that that is happening, but the actions don't match up. Queen of Cups in the shadow of herself, she puts up with a lot, she gives way with a lot. Her boundaries are fluid, watery, liquidy. She needs to be a bit clearer about where those boundaries are. In the shadow of Queen of Cups, she is codependent. She, you know, her worth relies on giving, being of service, and seeing that that is needed, that she is indispensable to somebody who has a broken wing that she can come along and kind of fix. So in the shadow of herself, Queen of Cups grapples with that codependency. She grapples with addictive dynamics in love and relationships. She grapples as well with idealism and with glossing over what is wrong in connections because she wants to believe the best and the highest version of the connection that is possible. And maybe she only takes the good things into evidence, and she really struggles to take the bad things into evidence, take the signs that something is not right, that she's not being respected. She might be happy to kind of wash over that, gloss over that, because it doesn't fit in with her narrative of how wonderful this connection is and how valued she is within it. Queen of Cups is working with a massive amount of empathy, and I think for me in my self-love journey, I have learned that my desire to see where somebody else is coming from and my desire to honour their journey and the complexity of their journey can often leave me last. It can put me on the back foot, and it can make my position very weak and my boundaries very flimsy. So over the course of time, I think I've learned a lot of lessons about that. And, I think Queen of Cups for me, therefore, has been a very sort of a card with a lot of self-love material in it. I went on a massive self-love journey with the Emperor. I think a lot of people went through a similar kind of experience to what I went through with the Emperor card, thinking of this figure as this very tyrannical, very authoritarian, like shadow father figure. I didn't like it when he came up. I didn't feel connected to him at all. And one of my self-love journeys with tarot undoubtedly was the process of finding the Emperor within, figuring out where do I have that strong foundation inside myself, that assertiveness, that clarity of vision that I won't let anybody fuck with and that I'm not going to apologise for. Where am I, the Emperor, inside myself, So to me, that principle of assertiveness, that power, that authority, and that sense that I am not going to compromise in a way that is self-sacrificial. I'm going to take up for myself and I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to have the empire I want to have. That was a very self-loving exploration for me, and it brought the Emperor out of shadow for me and really into, being into the sphere of being more helpful to me as a card. Now, obviously, every card has its light and its shadow. I truly believe there is a full spectrum of light and shadow with every tarot card. And one of the things I do with my tarot students when I'm mentoring is to help them to see what that spectrum is, because some cards are very much connected with shadow in the collective psyche, and some cards are very much connected with shadow, either with light or with shadow in the personal psyche. So sometimes being able to see the full range, the full spectrum of definitions that are, light and shadow, or active and passive, or, whatever, conscious and unconscious, it can be difficult. So I think with the Emperor, there's definitely an emphasis on the shadow side of the Emperor for a lot of people, and for me that was the case. I think I recognised that I was rejecting some of the more Emperor-like parts of my own nature. I think I didn't want to be seen as being rigid or pushing for like an excessive amount of control over situations. So I think I sort of held back on really embracing the clear vision I had for what I wanted and going forth and just doing that. And I think I held back with sort of being on my own leading edge, as Danielle Laporte put it, and I really love that wording, being on your own leading edge. I think the Emperor is unafraid to be on his own leading edge, and I think I was afraid of that. I was afraid of how I'd be judged. I was afraid of what people would think of me, if people would get the wrong idea. I didn't want my motivations to be misconstrued, and I think the Emperor can have his motivations very misconstrued. I think that's part of what this figure is about in tarot, is somebody looking at this figure and seeing somebody cold, uncompromising, self-serving, self-interested, somebody who is not really about, the collective elevation, but is more about personal elevation, and is very sort of rigid in their approach and isn't interested in hearing any contrary opinion, and I didn't want to be construed that way, and I didn't want to be construed as somebody who was like self-aggrandizing or only about their own glory. I think tarot is really interesting when it comes to self-love, because when you look at the cards that you reject, that you don't feel great about, that you feel shadowy about, you can sometimes see parts of your own journey, your own nature, your own desire that you have put into a cupboard and been like, that doesn't represent me, that's got nothing to do with me, I judge that in other people, or that makes me uncomfortable in other people, so I have rejected it in myself. And that leads you to this incredibly self-loving dialogue and you're like, oh, hang on a minute, let me embrace the Emperor within, you know. When you step into the energy of the Emperor, you recognize that this is an energy where you are concerned with the protection and the security and nourishment of the people in your midst and the people that you're close to. And the Emperor certainly can be selfless, and the Emperor can be, you know, going out at the front and putting the barricades in place and putting the strategies in place for the collective. So the Emperor can be a team player, but the Emperor, I think the Emperor energy is about knowing your role and embracing what it is that you can give to the situation, rather than trying to fit a role that isn't really you and that you can't really play to the hilt, because you know you wouldn't be authentic in playing that role. So it's about coming forth with what you can really do and establishing that sense of being instead of trying to be someone else. I think the Emperor energy has got a lot to do with expecting what you deserve, expecting respect, expecting your boundaries to be honoured, expecting to be heard, you know, expecting your place at the table when it comes to strategy and meetings and figuring out what you want to do in any situation. It's expecting that your identity is going to be respected. You know, it's expecting that you are going to be seen as a full human being and given access to your full rights. The Emperor takes up for himself in these ways. So I think of this Emperor figure, this Emperor energy, as being to do with, you know, expecting that you will be given the things that everybody else is entitled to expect and be given. You know, there's a fighting for fairness that I think comes with the Emperor energy. And that can be very self-loving. I've decided to switch to a different background because I'm just wondering if the cloth that I was using was making it difficult for the camera to pick up the fine detail of the cards. So let's try it this way and see if it's any better. Okay, so I'm moving on now to Seven of Swords. I want to talk about some self-love related lessons and kind of themes that have come up for me with this card. Often one of the main things we think of when we look at Seven of Swords is we think of being robbed. We think of somebody sort of taking off with our stuff. We think of somebody being dishonourable, deceitful, somebody taking what's not theirs, a betrayal of some kind. And that's a very popular way of reading this card, and it's definitely something that relates very strongly to the card. But there's definitely a spectrum of meanings, as there is with every card. And one thing that I think I pick up on a lot with Seven of Swords when it comes to self-love is recognising when you are the thief in the picture. And I've definitely had to do that with myself. So I want to talk firstly about that, then I'll talk a little bit about other people screwing you over and how that kind of relates to my journey. So with Seven of Swords, when I look at Seven of Swords and I think of myself as the thief, I'm thinking principally about self-sabotage. I'm thinking about unhelpful thoughts, unhelpful mental territory that I keep going into that slows me down or gets me off track. I'm thinking about past habits or mindsets that I know that I should put down because they're just not doing anything positive for me. I'm thinking about plans that I'm making that are probably not in my best interest if I want to get certain projects done or be good to myself. And I'm definitely thinking about robbing myself of time, robbing myself of energy, you know, robbing myself of headspace to be able to really look at the things that are important to me. So I do like to think of this figure in Seven of Swords as a thief within. So not just this external force that could be on the sort of loose in my life, but something from within that is kind of eating my house from within itself. I have definitely found this aspect of the card meaning to be difficult, for sure. You know, it's really easy to turn my head and act like something that I'm enjoying doing is not robbing me of time or robbing me of energy to do other things that really matter that I do want to get done, you know? I definitely struggle with procrastination. I definitely struggle with deadlines sometimes for things that I need to do. I struggle with putting things off that I really would like to get done that I know would make a difference to my mental health. So that's where the theme of Seven of Swords comes in quite a bit, is just looking at where I'm being my own worst enemy. I'm taking off with things that are valuable to me. You know, one part of me has kind of gone rogue, if you will, and just taken off with things that I really need, that are really important, that are really going to serve me. And that sort of rogue part of me is taking those things away. So it's about how to really integrate that part of me and think about what it does need and what I can give it without letting it get completely out of hand to the point where I'm sabotaging myself with projects, or, you know, I'm getting to the end of the week and I'm feeling really run down, or I'm feeling regretful because I don't think I spent the time appropriately. With the mindset thing, it's a little bit easier. I can kind of see when I'm screwing myself over with a certain mindset that is, you know, not helping me to move forward, or it's not helping me to have the best time that I could be having. I'm a little bit better with that. But when it comes to actions, when I'm just taking actions that are out of alignment with what I really want to do and how I want my life to be going, I can definitely kind of try to avoid being honest with myself about that and actually sort of putting myself back on the right track, aligning myself once again with my actual deeper missions. I will say though that Seven of Swords works in the other direction as well when you are robbing yourself. It's not just about robbing yourself of the focus and the discipline and the mindset that you need to get to your goals and get things done. It works in reverse. It's also about robbing yourself of fun, you know? So if you're going really sort of balls to the wall with your ambitions, your desires, your plans and projects, and you're not leaving any time for connecting with friends, doing something fun and enjoyable, thinking about something other than your studies or your business or your work or whatever, Seven of Swords could definitely be a representation of the inner thief actually stealing joy, stealing free time, stealing relaxation. So I definitely think it could come up for a very ambitious, business-oriented workaholic who needs to be told that they are robbing themselves of the other things in life that are important, like time with family or time off, you know? Now I want to talk a little bit about what it means for me in the self-love area of things when Seven of Swords denotes somebody else betraying me, being deceitful, lying, sort of taking things from me, that kind of stuff, having generally a more negative as opposed to positive effect on my life. For me, a big part of the self-love journey with Seven of Swords is looking at betrayal, looking at unfair treatment that I've received, and knowing that I can process that and I can go through the healing journey that's required on that without letting it completely taint and colour every single other relationship that I have. That's really important. For me, Seven of Swords, when I look at it, I sometimes see that figure and I think, you know what? If you're a symbol of someone that's mistreated me, or you're a symbol of a situation that has been really unfair for me, it's fine that I feel the way I feel about you. It's fine that I'm getting these difficult feelings of vitriol or sadness or fear coming up as I'm doing work on this card in the reading, you know, because you're supposed to come up to let me do that work. But I am not going to let you make me think that everybody is the same or every situation that is similar will be like that. I'm not going to let you make me feel like I can't trust anyone and I need to watch my back in every situation and I need to be closed and detached and not give anything and not be honest about anything. I'm not going to let you, this figure, this situation, whatever it might be, that I'm wronged by, I'm not going to let you sort of convince me that I have to drop out of that deep connection that I believe in, that I think is important and worthy. So it's definitely about making sure that I'm doing the healing where I need to be doing the healing, but not allowing a difficult situation to influence my perception of everything else and make me closed and make me cut off from people. I've definitely experienced before what it's like to be closed and cut off from people and fearful of everybody and suspicious of everything. I've definitely had that. When I was younger, I went through a particularly difficult situation. I talked about it a little bit in my experiences of shadow work video. And it was principally concerning two really close long-term friends of mine. And after that, I did shut down. I did cut off quite a lot, more so than even I did with difficult things that happened in my childhood and my adolescence. And some of those things were, you know, really difficult, really tough. But I think I had this open heart and I had this desire to believe and to have faith in people and in, you know, in that deep connection in life that works out and is worthwhile. But in my 20s, when that happened to me, that betrayal, that being cut off so savagely, that, you know, no talking about it, no nothing, just people turning their backs on me, I definitely turned my back on the world in turn and decided I didn't want anybody around me. And I did actually do witchcraft around that and ritual about that, and that really helped me because I knew I didn't want to have that mentality. But it wasn't even just a mentality, it was burning in my heart that I needed to protect myself and I needed to pull away. And I'm sure I did for a time. But I didn't want it to influence too strongly the rest of my life or the next few years, you know. I wanted to get back to belief in people as a rule, and to believe that even if I put myself out there and I get kicked in the heart, I'm there for me. I have faith in me. I know I can pick myself up, you know. And so I know what it's like to not feel that way and to be really unsure of whether or not I can be that way again. So Seven of Swords in a way just gently reminds me, you know what, if you've been hard done by, and that's what this card has come up to symbolize, just make sure that you're taking that as you need to take that and not letting it colour your perception of everything else. Five of Pentacles makes me think about deprivation, about self-deprivation, about leaving myself short, putting myself into an unstable position. I've definitely been financially and domestically and physically in unstable positions with difficulty and lack, and they have not been because of me. And I don't really include that in what I'm trying to get across here with Five of Pentacles. So Five of Pentacles can definitely represent things befalling you in life that make you, you know, physically injured or physically weak, financially unstable, materially uncertain, you know, volatilely housed, whatever it might be, uncertain with work, feeling like you can't get work. Those things happen to you, you know, they happen to you. They're external and they come into your reality and you have to deal with them. And that's what Five of Pentacles is about, for sure. But I think Five of Pentacles is also about putting yourself outside in the cold, or doing something that causes injury to yourself or makes your life unstable, scared, sort of fearful, and makes you feel scared. I think I've definitely picked up on aspects of my personality which are attached to making myself feel fearful, putting myself in situations where I haven't got myself covered and I don't have enough, playing sort of a game of risk with my physical health, maybe even mental well-being, with my money, you know, with things like that, and taking it sort of very into a risky area sometimes. And I definitely do it a lot less now, but it's still a tendency that I have, and I've shadow worked it quite a bit. And I definitely acknowledge that at times that shadow is not fully integrated and conscious to me. And I work hard to catch it in the rearview mirror as soon as I see it and be like, okay, I see that happened in that situation once before. I'm going to really try to mark it closely for next time, try to be one step ahead of it next time. Because I know that that's a situation in which I get a little bit Five of Pentacles. You know, I deprive myself, I ignore my needs, I put myself in a difficult situation before, don't want to be putting myself in a difficult situation again. So I try to take note of it. I definitely think that when situations befall me from outside, you know, when it's not my fault, it's not really something that I did to myself, it's something that happened, you know, things happen in life. When that happens, I know that the self-loving thing is not to find a reason to blame myself and not to be harsh on myself if it takes me a while to figure out what the order of business needs to be and how to get in control of the situation again. So it's about patience with myself, definitely. It's about nurturing myself, for sure. And that's why I particularly like the Morgan Greer version of Five of Pentacles, because you can see one person is wounded and bleeding and the other person is nursing, nurturing, helping. And I think that can represent the two sides of me, the part of me that's wounded and the part of me that's going to now step in to be compassionate and kind and helpful. One thing I will say about Five of Pentacles, and it's kind of a sort of a less popular interpretation, I would say, but it's just something that I've thought of over the course of time. I think Five of Pentacles can also come up in situations where you are neither of the people in this picture, but you are somebody who's looking at others who are in situations of destitution, poverty, instability, fear. They're marginalised, or, you know, they're in danger. And you want to come along and help and, you know, do your bit, and you're concerned for those people, or you're concerned about that situation and you want to get involved. And there is a spectrum of light and shadow when it comes to wanting to be involved and when it comes to wanting to help and do your part. First of all, you cannot help all people in all situations all the time. You've got to recognise that you've got a limit on your energy expenditure, a limit on your financial input in terms of donations or lending money or, you know, giving people money that need it, etc. You've got limits on all of that, so it's good to, you know, really focus in on what you want to do for people at a particular time, or how you want your involvement to be, so you don't end up in burnout or putting a massive amount of pressure on yourself to do everything all the time for everyone in every situation, because that can't be done, and that's not self-loving to you. And the other thing with Five of Pentacles is that you might just be, you know, there might be a message with the card self-love wise where you look around and you want to make sure everybody else is okay before you even remotely put yourself on your list of priorities. I think Five of Pentacles definitely could be that partly for me, is just being concerned in general about fragility and sadness and pain and need and fear, and wanting to really make sure I've got everybody else covered before I even think of myself. And that's very sweet and everything, but sometimes it will leave me in the lurch, or it has done sometimes in the past, where I've been so overly concerned about what somebody else is going through. I've overgiven. It's not that I've given a lot, which is appropriate to do in some cases for sure. It's that I've overgiven. And, you know, sometimes that infantilizes a person, or sort of disrespects or overlooks their needs. And of course, when it comes to like things like social justice, for example, you have to be really careful when you're involved in any issue to do with equity and to do with people being treated fairly, that you are not talking over those people or quashing their rights, you know? You have to be really sure of that too. So you have to make sure that you're not misreading the situation and thinking that you are helping when really you are hindering, you are talking over, you are not really respecting and witnessing the humanity in the people in Five of Pentacles, because you're too busy thinking of them as a plight that you need to turn up and respond to. And I think some of the narratives at times when it comes to social justice issues do read like that, and other people do pick up on it and say, hey, you know, you're not really witnessing what these people are doing for themselves or how they're organising or what they need us to do. You know, so anyway, I'm really straying from the point now, but I just thought I'd get onto that a little bit. Darlings, thank you so much for listening to some thoughts and feelings that I have about my self-love journey in relation to tarot. I hope this video was helpful, and I hope that you found it to be a good resource if you are actually learning tarot. I do have a free course on my YouTube channel from a long time ago, but I hear that it still holds water. It's called the Trainee Tarot Course. You can find a playlist on my playlist section that includes all of the 10 episodes of that for you, and it should give you a good baseline knowledge of tarot if you don't have one already and this has made you kind of feel like you want to learn. You can also get cardslinger sessions with me. I do one-to-one mentoring with tarot, so you can pop along to my online store and see what that's all about. I'll leave some links for you down below. I've also got a tarot ebook that I wrote some time ago. It's called Heal Hearts, Hold Space, and it's about how to give nurturing, empowering, really healthy, useful readings to queerants if you read for others or if you would like to. So I'm going to leave that down below as well. I am also going to be doing a 3-hour live Zoom workshop that's coming up in October, and that is really going to help people who want to read for others but they're too shy or worried or nervous to do so. So I'm going to leave that down below as well. It's called Instant Butterfly. I'm really passionate about it. It's going to be a really powerful live workshop, interactive live workshop. So if you'd like to come along to that, the tickets are available now. Much love, darlings, and blessed be.